Whether you're already part of the EV community or just exploring the idea of making the switch, you're in for a real treat. Today's webinar will not only be informative, but also a source of inspiration, really, as we delve into the realities of long-distance EV travel and how you can better prepare for your own adventures. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canada Talks Electric Cars. We're thrilled to have you join us today for what promises to be an engaging and I think insightful session. Today, we have the incredible Richard and Nicole Ivity with us, passionate husband and wife team dedicated to promoting electric vehicle awareness and sustainability. Their journey began in May of 2023 when they set out on an ambitious campaign in their Rivian R1T, lovingly named Rocky. Since then, they've covered an astounding 68,000 kilometers, traversing all 10 provinces, the Yukon, Labrador, and parts of the United States, and participating in over 45 local EV events all along the way. What's remarkable is that they've managed this extensive travel while successfully running their green energy consulting firm, Exigent Endeavours. Richard and Nicole are here to share their firsthand experiences, insights, and the challenges they've faced on the road, all aimed at making electric vehicle travel more accessible and enjoyable for everyone. You're welcome to ask Richard and Nicole questions at any time using the Q&A button on your screen. And during that Q&A session, you may also raise a virtual hand and ask a question using your microphone. So sit back, relaxed, and let's get ready to charge into this exciting discussion. Richard and Nicole, great to have you with us.
Great to be here, Tim. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're super excited.
Yeah, well, this is going to be fun, and it's a great one for me because I've gotten to know Richard and Nicole over the last quite a few months now. I can't remember when our adventure together started, but both Richard and Nicole happen to be fellow board members at EV Society, so we've had lots of screen time and some face-to-face time since they've come aboard with EV Society. But we're delighted to have you here and really keen to hear more about your journey.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to
Thanks
get
so
out of the way
much.
and just let you have at it.
Gotcha.
Sounds great.
All right, well, we're super excited to be sharing with you guys today. And thank you so much to Tim and the rest of the team from the webinar here for having us on. This is quite an honor.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So without further ado, get right into it here. So, as Tim mentioned, we are Richard and Nicole Ivity. We're multiple company entrepreneurs. The company we're speaking on behalf of here is Exigent Endeavours, Inc., which is a green tech consulting company that focuses on electric vehicle charger installations throughout Western Canada. Our Great Canadian EV Road Trip, it's an ambitious journey designed to spread awareness of electric vehicles throughout the country. It took about 3.5 years of planning. Within the next 2 weeks, we'll be at 18 months on the road in a Rivian R1T that we've driven from Vancouver to Labrador, all the way up to Fairbanks, Alaska, and a bunch of the nooks and crannies throughout the country that take a lot of effort to get to, such as Vancouver Island. We're currently now in Masset, Haida Gwaii, and this journey was to plan 60 EV awareness and education events throughout the country, which we have done. I believe we're at 59 right now. We have a couple more to do this year. And our background stems from electric vehicle charging infrastructure the last 7 years. And we have installed we've coordinated the installation of roughly 750 chargers throughout Western Canada, from public on-street, multifamily, different commercial properties, different municipalities, universities. Here's some examples there. We've done the first, second, and third fully electrified parkade condos, I believe in North America, from all accounts that I've seen. The first one was the Altus. That was a 126 unit condo in Surrey, BC. and all 126 units have a dedicated car charger. A couple other examples there as well on the slide. That project had 3 full parking levels of cellular booster technology, which was its own unique process to get sorted. And yeah, we wanted to take that information across the country so that people didn't have to do the same mistakes we did, and we can help accelerate the industry across the country faster than BC did. So with that, I'll pass it off to Nicole. She's the one with the numbers.
Awesome. So we got our Rivian on May 1st, 2023.
Yeah.
So we've had it just about 18 months now, which is pretty crazy. Some common questions we get is, what's your range? We get about 500 kilometers of range. We have noticed that with colder temperatures, you do lose some range. So that's getting to be closer to 400, maybe even 350 or so once these really cold temperatures hit. But honestly, we haven't had our vehicle in -30 yet. When we were wintering, it was out in the East Coast, and the closest we saw was about -17. So we are looking forward to experiencing a real cold winter and finding out exactly how the vehicle performs. Yeah, we clicked over 76,000 kilometers just a few days ago, I guess. And the power on this vehicle is crazy. It'll do 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. Seems to be more than anyone really needs, but it's capable, and it's just amazing. We can charge up to 220 kilowatt hours speed, 135 kilowatt hour battery, crazy torque, 835 pounds or 835 horsepower. It'll tow up to 11,000 pounds. Yeah,
It's a beast.
Tons of different driving modes. It's extremely versatile. We've had it in all kinds of different terrains, and it's worked amazing. So in 2023, this is a map of our journey. We have kind of broken it down into the different types of charging we've done. So the blue ones are charging at home, either using our own portable EV charger or someone else's installed EV charger that's a level 1. This is like a 110 outlet. This is your basic kind of trickle charge. And it's a little hard to see some of those overlap in places we were in a little bit longer. But yeah, then we've got level 2. That's a little bit faster. A lot of public charging is level 2. A lot of it's free, which is also awesome. And then we have the fast chargers, which that has been expanding like crazy over the country. And it's yeah, that's been primarily what we've been using for the vast majority of our travel. And then we have our RV park charging, which I think is some of the coolest things we do. So when we are in areas where it's a little bit more challenging, there's less charging available, we are set up with a rooftop tent. We have some different adapters that allow us to charge at either 30 amp or 50 amp RV plugs. And we also have this also crazy piece of equipment called a pigtail that we got way up in Watson Lake, Yukon at the RV park there. And that'll allow us to plug into 2 30 amp spots at the same time, which gives us an overnight charge. So as you can see, like Northern Ontario was pretty sparse. That was a way to get through. And also when we went up to the Yukon the first time, we actually ran into chargers that did not work at all for the Rivian. That's since been fixed, which is great. But at the time, we couldn't even use them, so we could only do the RV parks. We were pretty grateful to have that charging equipment. It was really what allowed us to get into the remote spots that we wanted to visit. Now this is from 2024, so the return journey east back to west. You can see there's a lot more exploring and dipping around, and it's pretty exciting, all the different places we've been able to go. We were traveling in the summertime through Northern Ontario and the prairies, so you can see lots more of that purple RV park charging. That was mostly by choice. It was just such a convenient way to travel because we get our accommodations and our charging covered all at the same time. That was fantastic. Here's some high-level trip stats, different ranges and such for 2023, kilometers traveled, cost of charging. And then into 2024, this is kind of our totals out of the whole trip. So we've had about 610 charging sessions, total cost $5,317.27, which when you compare that to what a trip like this in a gas vehicle would have cost, there's no question we've saved tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And yeah, our kilowatt hours that we've used, 23,330.
23 megawatts.
23 megawatts of power. That's a lot of power. But you know, we've been able to travel great distances over quite a few days. So that's pretty exciting. In these two pictures, you'll see kind of our east to west journey. So the first picture there is actually on the west coast. That's I believe that's Side Bay. That's a remote spot on the north part of Vancouver Island. And the next picture over is in St. John's, Newfoundland. So both times we decided to dip Rocky's wheels into the ocean. So we have touched both sides. Here's another breakdown of some of our charging numbers, costs per level of charging and how we charge. So you'll see right away, RV charging didn't really cost us anything. We generally kind of figured it's about $5 to $10 more to pay for a powered site than it is to pay for a dry camping site. So it's very reasonable. And then level 1 charging, we didn't incorporate any costs to that. When we do have a home, which we currently do not, we're full-time travelers, then we'll be able to calculate this based on the cost of electricity wherever we happen to live. But right now it's just been generous hearts of Airbnbs and friends that we've stayed with, the odd block heater at motels, things like that. And yeah, level 3, obviously the most expensive type of charging we do. You pay for speed and convenience, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, there's still a few areas where level 3 is still free. Yukon has still got free level 3 charging. However, that's not going to be there forever. We fully believe that we should be paying for power. It costs a lot to produce it, and we want to support this industry. So that's awesome. And then level 2, yeah, it's often free. Every once in a while you pay for it, but it's a very low cost. So here are some graphs. This is exciting. We just put these together and we're really cool to see just some visualizations of some of our data. So you can see the number of times we've used the different types of charging. So level 3 is definitely the most we do. And the different types of chargers, the brands that we run into. Flow has been one of the most reliable that we've found. They're very abundant, especially in the West here. ChargePoint is the close second. And then there are quite a few others that had pie slices too small to fit on the graph. I think, how many charging apps do you have, Richard?
Over 20.
Over 20 different
Over
charging
20.
apps.
Seems
So that's
too
kind
many,
of fun.
but that's okay.
It's a lot. This green graph here is showing the efficiency that we're getting in our vehicle. So most of the time we're sitting around, it's about 3.2 kilometers per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. There's been a couple of one-offs where it's gone way up high, and I think that's due to regenerative braking scenarios where you're going down a hill. And then we have our max kilowatt hour of charging here. So there's a pretty strong line right around 50 kilowatts. And that is a very, very common speed to find. And then you'll see a few spikes where we got some of our top charging speed possible, which is pretty exciting. And then towards the end of the trip, we're getting more frequent, higher speed charging as that comes online.
Yeah. I believe that that one outlier right on the top, that's 200, and I think it went up to 220.
Yeah, it's
That surprisingly was a Rivian branded station on their adventure network. That was in Illinois. Surprisingly, not in their town where their manufacturing plant is. It was around the area, but not in that city. And yeah, that was, I think it reached just under 1,200 kilometers of range an hour, which with a 500-kilometer range truck, that's lickety split. The day after we plugged into there, they put on the billing sessions. So that charge for us was free. Everyone else has to pay. but there you
Yeah.
go.
And that charge was what, about 20 minutes?
Oh, less than that. It was
Less
like
than 20 minutes to
12
charge
minutes or
up.
something to get a whole giant boost of range on that one.
Pretty awesome.
A lot of the stations in BC that are put in by the utility, BC Hydro at this point, they're getting into the 150, 200 kilowatt range. And their next plan down the line, as is with many of the provinces that we've spoken with, are looking at 400 kilowatt chargers coming through in the next little while. So 15-minute, 20-minute charge will go down to 5, 10 pretty quick here. And then we're gas station fast. So yeah, transitioning out of all the numbers, thanks Nicole on putting all that together, boggles my mind. Glad I don't have to do all of the stuff and we can split that down the middle because yeah, I'm just not a numbers person on that anything. So I like pictures. If a picture tells 1,000 words, then we have thousands of words on the next few slides here. So what we've done is just kind of incorporated sections of our charging map that you saw earlier into more of a story and a narrative of how that trip has been. What we've done, I didn't do it. What Nicole did was the pictures of our maps that you can see in front of you are the sum total of all the charging sessions from both there and back. And so you'll see a lot of those charging points, and we just picked some really great stories based on those points to share with you today. So getting into it, Atlantic Canada, when we were out there, spent about 5 months from November to April throughout all the Atlantic provinces. The minimum temperature that we found for 2 days was -17. One of the biggest questions we've received across the country is how's it perform in cold weather? How's it work in the winter? Winter's been harder and harder to find. So after this exact moment, we're going to be wrapping up into the late fall, late winter months. And we look forward to getting that information and finding those cold temperatures because they're elusive to say the least.
That being said, we do know a lot of folks who are in these cold climates with EVs, and some of the things they say is they start every time. The heat is instant. The extra traction from the extra weight of the vehicle makes it awesome on snow and ice. People driving EVs in the winter can't be more happy.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
pretty awesome.
And we look forward to being able to share our story once that we get those experiences. So some descriptions of some of these pictures here. The top left one here with the F-150 and Rocky. That's actually a patrol truck from the town of Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. The mayor there, his name is David Mitchell. He, I believe, was the first municipality to get a patrol vehicle for the RCMP. There were some other municipalities that got EVs, but they weren't for their patrolmen. They were for their inspectors and detectives. And they found that it was enough savings to get a Tesla that it allowed them to hire another human being onto their force. A few reasons why they upgraded from the Tesla to the F-150, just so it can support more equipment in the truck. And so we went out to go visit them. It was a great day. Awesome to meet them and hear their story. As you can see on the bottom right there, it says we saw 11 icebergs. So we went up to the highest points of Newfoundland, up near lots of meadows. We got some amazing footage of all sorts of things. We did buy a drone. So quick plug on that one. In the next couple of years, we have like 800 gigabytes of pictures and videos that we've been gathering. And so the next bunch of time is going to be sit down when we have a place to sit down in and just chop up a whole bunch of that. So feel free to follow us or follow along with that and get that information as it starts pouring through. The crustacean elation beers on the bottom there. Those are full-on beers made with lobster juice, which, okay.
Delicious as it sounds.
Yeah, we talked with the guy who made it, and he had a car charger right outside of his brewery. We're like, well, we need power anyway. Let's go have a flight of beer, and told him about our story. And he said, oh, you guys need to take these beers and like go talk about them across the country. So he gave us a couple of 4-packs to distribute to people we know, and now we're mentioning them on a federal call. So there you go. Very peculiar and delicious beer. But yeah, it's fun. We also popped a tire in Nova Scotia, got it fixed in New Brunswick. That was tire number 1. Moving along the country, we went through to Quebec a little tiny bit. We did pop into the Montreal EV show. not as participants, but just to check it out, which was an amazing journey there. And then we got into the Ontario area of things. One of our favorite events that we were in there was the Toronto EV show put on by Electric Autonomy. You can see there's Nino DeCara there in the picture and Will Steimel. He was the Howard Hutt inductee for the year. Really great to be part of that. A few of the other board members there are in that picture. We were also able to participate in the Nikola Tesla monument unveiling in Hamilton. Wonderful opportunity there. Made some great connections. One of the folks that we talked to there was actually one of the engineers on the Rivian team that helped with the long way up trip. That was with Ewan McGregor and his buddy about the electric bikes that went up with Rivian. Speaking of Rivian, we were also able to head down to Normal, Illinois to go get a tour of their facility. They took over a Mitsubishi plant from yesteryear and outfitted it for Rivian. They've just gotten permissions from town council to add an additional 200,000 square feet to that warehouse so that they can build their next gen R2 and R3 series vehicles. So we're excited to see all that. We were also able to go up to Sudbury in their battery EV in-depth Minds to Mobility conference put on by one of the other board directors for the EV Society, which was absolutely amazing. So much cool innovations coming through in the mining sector for electric vehicles, full scale from mining it out of the ground to processing it, manufacturing it, and then getting it into the batteries for EVs. So that was super cool to be a part of. And yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of charging spots across the province there that you can pop into.
And a lot of mosquitoes in
Oh yeah,
in northern
gonna do that
Ontario.
graphic one more time because holy, that was
Oh.
Muskoka.
We got swarmed.
Yeah.
But another benefit of driving an electric vehicle, we couldn't even sit outside. We couldn't have a fire. We were just inundated with mosquitoes, black flies, and no-see-ums. So we sat in the truck. We had our air conditioning going. We listened to music, watched a movie. We were able to be protected from that environment and not worry about emissions or idling or killing a battery or any of that. So that was fantastic.
Yes. But
So again, we're moving east to west, and this was some of our favorite time camping along through the prairies, through Winnipeg. Just yeah, Winnipeg and Saskatchewan both had a great deal of campgrounds with 50 amp power. And the pricing was almost the same. There was often where you would go to camp and you would pay the exact same for a 30 amp or a 50 amp. And with a 50 amp, we can charge overnight very, very quickly. So that was a no-brainer. It was awesome. Awesome to see that all set up there. Yeah, we loved Saskatchewan. There was some very surprisingly beautiful places there. We loved the Manitou Springs, just floating along in there. We were able to, on our initial journey, attend the largest car show in Western Canada, which is the Rock 102 Show and Shine in Saskatoon. That was, I'd say, our first like really big car show that we did. It was a multi-day event, involved a big cruise down Main Street and different events throughout the weekend. Quite a lot of fun and lots of really curious folks. One thing we've found is some of the places where adoption is not quite there, like the prairies, has the most passionate people on their EV associations who are working so hard to make a difference and just show what these vehicles can do. So that's been awesome to be connected with those folks. Yeah, they're fantastic. We were able to try out charging with a Tesla adapter for the first time, which is cool. We did try also back in Ontario. I think North Bay has a station with a Magic Dock installed, so that's the adapter built right into the station. They only did that in 2 places in all of Canada. And then they started just shipping adapters out to EV owners based on manufacturer and VIN number, order, and all sorts of different factors. So we didn't have one. You can buy them third party too. So we actually borrowed someone's in Saskatoon because we kind of made a split decision to just scream back to Edmonton to catch that last
Game
Oilers
7.
hockey game and be with our families for that, which was yeah, it was cool because we had an event that day. We were able to borrow the Tesla adapter, charge up in a very short time. It was very fast. It was expensive, but it was fast. And then yeah, make it all the way out to Edmonton that night, and that was awesome. We popped another tire over in Winnipeg, and that time we had our spare tire kit. We were able to jack up the tire ourselves, flip the tire around, get it all sorted out. Took us maybe 45 minutes to
Oh,
like.
less than
Well, it was the first time. I think it took a little bit of time. We like had to read the instructions and figure it all out, but we got it done, and it was awesome. And yeah, great efficiency driving on those prairie roads.
indeed, indeed. Hey, moving along, we have Alberta and the eastern part of BC. We did some amazing events there with the EV Association of Alberta. Our first event that we actually planned, kind of on our own, was in Edmonton on Canada Day, I believe, and we have a contact at a No Frills who let us use the parking lot. And we did a free barbecue for the community
In the rain.
in the rain. There was a picture under that one. The middle one, sorry, was the Canada Day one. The picture underneath that, where there's an F-150 Lightning. If you look close enough, you can see a cable running from the Lightning to our truck. Because we screamed through BC to get to that event. That was for Father's Day. It was a huge car show in Edmonton on that end. And we came in at like 3 a.m, had 4 hours of sleep, got to the car show with something like 25 kilometers left. And the driver of the F-150 said, "Oh, well, just plug into my truck, no problem." So it was, I've never seen rain like that in Edmonton. It was cats, dogs, and squirrels. That was ridiculous. But he let us plug in the rain, made no difference. We were pulling 7.6 kilowatts off of his truck into our Rivian, and we're able to basically top up a good quarter so that we didn't have to worry about having it on display mode the whole time. The top picture there is the Klondike Days event at the TELUS Innovation Zone, again, put on by Electric Vehicle Association. They were kind enough to include us in that. Had some great vehicles, some great conversations. That was a 3-day event and talked to hundreds of people there. One awesome story, we went to Cranbrook to do an event and got invited to another event after that. And we went over the Kootenay Pass, which is a little bit west of Cranbrook. That's an 8-kilometer hike up that pass and 8 kilometers back down. When we went back down, the regenerative brakes on the truck gained us 5% of our battery back, which is pretty darn crazy. Also, when we first went through, the first super fast charger that we got into was a Golden. It was in Golden. It was an Electrify Canada station. I think that went to 165, 170 kilowatts, which was pretty cool to have. We were also able to participate in the Stampede Pancake Breakfast that they did in 2023. Had a couple of events there, and then the middle pictures here are just trucks doing truck stuff. So we're hauling some tables for Nicole's dad. I personally love having bonfires, and so we got a whole bunch of wood and tossed it all in the back. And yeah, handled it no problem. Getting into the West Coast here, we left Vancouver in May 2023, and were able to really get going on a lot of those events. Some big takeaways from that one: we went to the Everything Electric show in Vancouver, which was amazing. That was put on by the Fully Charged Live crew out of UK and Robert Llewellyn, who we had a very small chat with, which was absolutely very insightful. Great time. We also made it to Vancouver Island and charged up all over there. The middle picture on the right is Nicole. I was also on one, but I'm taking the picture, so it's hard to get both of us in there. But we were on e-bikes, and we took those all the way along Long Beach in Tofino, and absolutely crazy. We had a couple of times where our truck Rocky was able to go on soft sand as well, and just with the capabilities of electric, being able to propel the vehicle without having the weight of, on a bike, for example, each pedal pushing you deeper into the sand, it kind of just bumbles along. And same with the truck, you put it into soft sand mode, which the Rivian has, and it's like you're driving on a cloud. We're also able to participate with the city of Kamloops for their Hot Night in the City event, which is another giant car show. They had Electric Avenue there, and I think we had 11 vehicles. And yeah, longest Forest Service road that we traveled was 80 kilometers in. That was past Port Alice to a place called Side Bay, which was recommended as a place to journey to. And so we went up there, came all the way back. The truck took it completely fine, no issue, other than we popped our third tire, which same thing. We put it into tire change mode,
A
lickety
lot
split,
easier that time.
got it all
That's what
done,
we were
got the
doing.
tire fixed back when in Vancouver, and we were good to go.
I held the umbrella.
There you go.
Uh,
Moving into northern BC, we've been partnered with folks at the Emotive BC office, which their mandate is to increase EV awareness in the province, and they're partnered with us to do some northern EV events. So we've had a whole bunch of those. We went up the Cassiar Highway, which when we first left Vancouver was unable to be done. BC Hydro has now installed a whole bunch of chargers along that entire corridor, which makes it super easy to get up and down. Up through there, we went into up in Yukon and Labrador, which we'll get into momentarily. But yeah, the top picture on the left there is Meziadin Junction with a free wire station. So that's a battery backed station that gets powered by level 1 power, single phase power, charges the batteries, and then that outputs into a vehicle at 3-phase. As you can see there, Cassiar Highway, newest chargers. So those just came online last month. Along that same journey, we were able to go to Stewart and the Salmon Glacier. That's the picture on the bottom left there, which that is a dome shot with our drone, which, yeah, just even that picture there doesn't do it justice. Absolutely amazing. We've done about 8 events with Emotive so far, so we have a couple more to do. One will be in the winter on mountains to kind of just test out the capabilities of that. In the middle picture there is Prince George did an energy tour where they took us along throughout the city and did a whole bunch of cool spots for different folks doing innovative things for the energy transition.
So moving into the north, this was some of the most adventurous stuff we did, I think. We were able to make it all the way up to Dawson City. And fortunately, we wanted to do that big loop where you go from Dawson City up and around Chicken into Alaska and then back down to Tok, Alaska. They call it Top of the World Highway. However, we missed it by a couple of weeks. It was closed when we got there, but we were able to drive from Dawson City on the top of the World Highway right up to where the border was closed. So
that's the top right
there. That was pretty cool. Beautiful, beautiful drive, amazing route. And then we went back down to Whitehorse, and Whitehorse was a cool place. We had a great event there. We had great turnout. Amazing EV adoption in these northern places. It's quite cool to see. And then we were able to drive all the way back down to Whitehorse and over and up to Fairbanks, Alaska. And from our reasoning here, and from our looking on PlugShare, it seems to be that Fairbanks DC fast charger is the most northern fast charging station in the world.
Publicly accessible.
There might be others, but as far as we could see, that was the more northernmost charger. Pretty cool. We were able to camp in the snow at what, minus 14? Minus 14. And we did that. Someone suggested to us, hey, why don't you get an electric blanket? Brilliant. So we can plug that thing in, tuck it in our sleeping bag. It feeds the cord right out into the tailgate and plugs in at the back. We were toasty warm. So we're planning to do some more winter camping with that setup. We're pretty excited to see how far we can push that. But yeah, so far so good. Awesome. And again, camping and charging was the way we got up the first time. We didn't have to do that the second time. But it's still a great option. And yeah, we love the north. It's a pretty wild and cool place. Fantastic. And Richard kissed the in Dawson City.
I did.
You wouldn't catch me doing that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do your own research on what the heck that means. But that was gross and really gratifying. So this picture here, Nicole essentially overlaid both of our charging maps together for every charging stop that we did throughout our entire journey. 18 months, 610 charging stops. Vast majority has been level 3 stations. And yeah, an EV can basically go, I wouldn't even say basically, advancedly go everywhere a gas powered can, and then some, I would say. So some quick takeaways is some keys to the journey. Those keys there are our key set for the Rivian. So road trip lessons, like I just said, your EV is capable and can take you there. ABC was a great concept that we've learned on our trip, which is always be charging, similar to a cell phone. You don't fill your cell phone all the way up to 100% and then kill it, and then fill it, and then kill it, and then fill it. That reduces the life of your cell phone, the life of your battery, and the performance of your phone. Same as it does with your car. So you want to be able to charge within that sweet spot, 20 to 80. If you have to push it, you can, but don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
Go up to 100%.
Also, it just feels better on a road trip to make shorter stops more frequently.
Right.
Or overnight, even better.
Yep. Nicole and I kind of kept it around the 2 or 3 hour mark per driving session. We could probably do 4.5, 5 on one charging fuel tank, but you know, there's always stuff to see. You got to have a meal, you got to go to the bathroom, whatever you're going to do. So take advantage of the available tools. There are a lot. PlugShare is your best friend. Nicole has done a tremendous amount of work trying to get us to the next stop over and over and over again. You can get to charging bays where some of the stations work. It's either the left one or the right one. And PlugShare is a crowdsourced information map of all the charging stations that are available, their status, and tips and tricks on a lot of the different sites on how best to go from where you want to get to. And yeah, we rely on that a whole bunch. There's a couple other tools in the belt similar to that one. Charge Hub is another one. Better Route Planner, which is actually purchased and owned now by Rivian, is another one. But we use primarily PlugShare. The charging adapters, if you're going to do a long distance trip and you want to do like an RV kind of style, get those adapters. The single port, the dual port, they came in so handy, worth their weight in gold for sure. And really understand your gasometer. When we have a full fuel tank, the number on there, for example, is 560, but that is Rivian's guesstimate of perfect driving conditions at 4 kilometers per kilowatt hour. That is, it's possible, but in the driving style that we do, very unlikely and honestly not really necessary. There's so much charging infrastructure that we don't really have to do it that way. Not all cars are built the same. Some are more or less generous with that gasometer, but make sure that what it says there, you just done the research on your own vehicle and driving habits to know that that's either up or down from what's actually going to get you there. And yeah, just talk with locals. Go and discuss your trip with the people around where you live or around where you are and who live there, and they can give you awesome tips on cool stuff to see, awesome people to talk to, and just make the most out of your journey.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on to some industry lessons. Canadians are very passionate about EVs in the right circles. Just speak with anyone from an EV association. EV associations are wonderful resources if you're curious about EVs or a passionate driver looking to connect with the community. They're awesome groups. They're throughout Canada. Highly recommend getting in touch with your local EV association. And then charging infrastructure, we have seen so much change just in this short 18 months of what's available, the speeds that are available, the number of chargers at each site that reduces congestion. It's all improving. You can go pretty much everywhere, and it's really exciting to see. It's going to be cool to see how much better it gets. And all forms of government are going all in. There's some pretty strong targets, mandates that are in place by the Canadian government for 2035 all new vehicle sales to be electric vehicles and or zero emissions, which can include other things such as hybrids. But yeah, this isn't going anywhere, and we're really excited to be a part of it and move forward.
Yeah. That pretty well sums it up. If you want to get a hold of us, Richard and Nicole Ivity, either at Connect at Exigent Endeavours, that's our consulting firm, or at evroadtrip.ca. And we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, sort of YouTube. That'll come up next year as we cut our content. But yeah, that's where you can find us. And with that, we'll say any questions. I'll stop screen sharing and we can go from there.
Fantastic. I will put those links in the comment section in the recording of this video so that people can easily find you for sure. And with that, we'll ask Jason to step in. And Jason, I see some questions have piled up there.
Yes, we have quite a good crop of questions. Also, as a reminder, if you would like to ask an audio question, we can fit one or two of those in. Just raise your hand and I will pause every now and then and see if we can take a few of those. For now, one of the first questions, the highest voted, is how many different charging cards do you have? And how many charging stations did you find that just take straight up credit cards?
Oh, good question. We actually don't have an RFID card. There's been a couple of times where we would have liked to have had one, but we made it work. The main reason being is we left town so fast, we need to get that mailed to us, and we just weren't quite sure on how long it would take. So we just said, hey, we'll be fine without it. But as you mentioned, charging apps.
Yeah, we have I think 21 charging apps. There was a couple of stations full on one-offs that like hardly had an app. We didn't bother with it. Those ones seem to be able to take charging tap cards.
Mhm.
So those are just transacted on credit cards. Very few stations actually can right now charge on credit cards.
Like just the credit card
Yeah,
one.
with the tap and pay model, that is coming. I know in California they've actually made a mandate where each charging station going forward has to have that.
Mhm.
It's kind of just a recommendation at this point across the country. So probably in the next couple 3 years, that'll all be sorted. But right now it's few and far between.
Yeah.
Honestly, the app is completely fine.
Yeah, I'd say earlier on, there was a few times where we had a lot of trouble getting those apps working. I remember particularly, I remember in New Brunswick it being a thing where we were just filling with apps, and I'm just like, okay, let's just use the credit card. Let's just go tap it. And often it worked fine. I think those were like, remember the Energy New Brunswick ones?
I think those were flow.
Yeah, they were flow
I think those
based.
were flow.
But generally we try and keep it on the apps just because it's easier to keep tabs on everything that's going on and yeah, keep track of all the expenses that way
Yeah.
rather than just having random credit card transactions. But
Yeah, one important note for us, we have been tracking all of our charging data. So you saw the stats there. The vast majority of people aren't doing that. And so to have like, okay, how long did this one take? How many kilowatts did you have? How much did it cost? That information is kind of irrelevant to most folks. And so to just tap and pay as you do at the gas station, that'll be a lot easier. For us, we wanted to make sure that it was tracked on our app, on our history, so that we could actually take that information and make some data out of it. So we weren't really trying to do the tap and pay model because if you tap and pay, it's harder to get a receipt. But there are some that are available, but it's growing more and more.
Great, thank you. It doesn't look like you are pulling a trailer very often, if at all, but did you happen to notice how many charging stations were equipped for people that did have a trailer and need a pull-through spot?
totally, yeah, great question. We've never towed anything, but we've talked to lots of folks who have, and that's something I take note of whenever we pull into a charging station is how much space is there. We found Electrify Canada stations are often in really small little bays, and we had a hard time like maneuvering our vehicle to fit in there to get the charging port lined up, but the cables are very short. More and more, we're seeing the ones that are like in big, wide open parking areas where it would be really easy to pull a trailer in. All the new BC Hydro ones are in really big open spaces. Yeah, I think that's something where at the beginning of when things were getting going, people were thinking, oh, electric car, just like little, and you just need a little spot. But yeah, the vehicles themselves are getting bigger. More and more people are towing things. So I think that more newer stations, especially the ones in rest stops, like in cities, they're a little smaller typically, but in the rest stop stations are always really wide open, lots of room.
One of my neighbors has a Hummer EV, and I have to wonder how you park
Oh
that
yeah,
anywhere.
Yeah,
you don't.
they're pretty crazy.
Those are beasts.
Okay, here's a popular one. Did you have any anxiety about running out of charge?
The first month, I think we had some pretty big anxiety.
Couple
When
spots.
we left Vancouver, it took about 2.5 weeks for us to gear up, get all the stuff ready, our rooftop tent and other such things. When we left Vancouver, as we were driving out of town, Nicole was saying, you know what? We've been hearing all these reports that we really should have that RV adapter. Let's just get one. So we'd already left where we were staying. we were driving up north, and Nicole found one that was being sold by a guy who bought two, one for his Tesla, one for his friend's Tesla. And the friend said, I'm never going to use that, just sell it off. And we bought that one driving out of town. And if we didn't have that, we would be,
We would have been
oh
stranded.
man, we wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the different things. We would have been full on stranded, like having to plug into 110 for 3 days instead of 12 hours. So the first month, yeah, we definitely had some range anxiety. One of my favorite stories, we were coming down from Fort St. John, and at that point, I think it was a 340-kilometer gap between stations. We timed everything to be able to get to a Prince George event, and there was one 25-kilowatt station that we were plugging into, and we timed that. That was fine. But when we got there, someone else was plugged into the other port, which halved the charging rate that we were supposed to be getting. So it went down to like 14 kilowatts instead of 25. And there was a magic number between how late do we make everybody wait for us versus having to push the 7,400-pound truck the last 10 kilometers. So we arrived 45 minutes late, unfortunately. They were just about wrapping up. We were getting texts like, are you guys even showing up? We arrived with 22 kilometers at 2% battery left.
Yeah.
And then the next three stations we looked for in Prince George at that time were all broken. So we had to go to a fourth
still drove
station.
around for a while trying to find stations. That was pretty funny. But we did find through that experience some things to really maximize range. Turn off all your vents, no air blowing. We dimmed the screen, like hold your breath a little bit. And we actually found slowing down and getting behind a big vehicle. And definitely, I'm not going to condone drafting like dangerously. We were a very safe following distance set by the automatic cruise control on the vehicle itself. And just doing that, we got 20% more range.
Yeah.
So if you ever really need to push it, that is a great strategy.
Yeah, we actually got pretty lax with our range. And in Newfoundland, the first time through, completely fine, no issues. When we went back in April and this year, in the northern side of things, we went back up to do an event up there, take some pictures of some icebergs. And on PlugShare, we in December were the last PlugShare check-in at two of the stops that we went to. I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine. As we were going up there, we saw one of the fast chargers there that seemed to be down. It looked like it was still resetting, but they had a redundant level 2 station. We plugged in overnight. That was fine. Left. And as we were coming back down, we chose another station to go to. That level 3 station was broken. So we had to charge up at the level 2 for 4 hours.
And we'd only left where we knew we had a working station with 50% because we're like, oh yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, we got lazy. So
and then 2 fast chargers in a row were broken.
Yeah.
So we went back to that one. We stayed overnight in December. It was still broken. And then we had to plug into that for another 3 hours. So an hour and a half charging session turned into 8 hours that day. So we're like, well, it's not quite there. I wouldn't say we had range anxiety, but we definitely got a lesson of, just mind your P's and Q's and do a little bit more research before you think that 50% is enough to get you anywhere.
Yeah, but we still made it.
And that's the critical thing.
Yeah.
That segues nicely because the next question was, did you have any close calls? And it sounds like you certainly had your share.
A few, yeah.
Personally, I think we're starting to shift from we need more charging to we have a lot of charging, but we need reliable charging.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, and I won't go to any charging station without checking on PlugShare first.
Yeah, it's a big part of it.
Always look first before you go. Because like our onboard navigation system, it's gotten a little better, but usually it'll want to direct us to the fastest rated charger. That does not necessarily mean that charger is 1 working or 2 fast at all. So yeah, check PlugShare. People will tell you what's going on with it.
Yeah, one good story we had, it wasn't necessarily a range issue, but in Halifax, we were staying there for a few weeks over the winter. It had -17. The truck worked perfectly fine, but it also had 7 feet of snow drop in 3 days, and went right back up to -5, 0. So it was freezing, thawing, and there's just a lot of pokey ice all over the place. That was our first pop tire, and we didn't have a spare because Rivian didn't have enough tires to give spares out. They were all going on brand new vehicles. So we asked them in Vancouver, we asked them in Toronto, can we buy a spare as we're coming through? And they said, we don't have any available for you. You'll probably be fine. So we, because there wasn't any service centers really available, we hadn't really been rotating our tires. We got a lot of tread wear on the inside of one of the tires, and it popped one day. So we're sitting there, we have a pop tire, we don't have a spare. And so what do we do? Well, luckily the Rivian has an onboard compressor. So we topped that back up, which made it so that we could get to a mechanic who took a Tesla little goo package and blew it into the tire. We drove 600 kilometers on that glue from Halifax to New Brunswick, where Rivian overnight shipped a set of tires to a Kelly Tirecraft shop out there. They'd never seen a Rivian, they'd never heard of a Rivian, and they wanted to jack up our truck, as you typically do, on the springs on the suspension, which we were told from the service manager in Canada, do not let them do that. And we were having an argument with the guy. I said, here, hold on. Let me just give you the phone to the Canada service manager for Rivian. You could hear him yelling at the guy, don't jack up the suspension. You'll destroy the whole thing. The guy's like, I'm just trying to save you money. Like, it'll take an extra 2 hours to remove all these panels. Rivian has little jack pucks similar to the Tesla, and they're very proprietary. So if you don't have those, you have to take off all the extra panels on there. So they did that, and it's like an extra hour and a half of labor. Very, very small price to pay, but we got the tire up and running. And then when we got back to Toronto, we bought a spare tire, and yeah, get your spare tire.
And we now have a full set of jack pucks, so we could do tire rotations anywhere.
Yeah.
So how many tires did you actually go through on the whole trip? I've lost count.
We got the full set in New Brunswick, so that was 4 for the one pop tire, and then we popped 2 more tires, 5, 6, and then we just bought another set in Vancouver to go up to Fairbanks. We're also going to buy a set of all-terrain, like winter tires for this season. So it definitely goes through a lot more tires.
We also could have been doing rotations more. So part of it's on us. We are also driving on some crazy fun roads. So
yeah, I was going to
part
ask,
of the territory.
were any of those sort of road hazard related as opposed to just wear and tear in general?
I mean, Forest Service roads, they like the 2 that actually popped like mid-drive were on gravel roads.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's part of the territory of doing those kinds of explorations. Yeah, to be expected. But yeah, we will always make sure to have a spare with us.
Yeah. We're also using all-purpose tires that are road tires rated from California.
We could be
going through all the different terrains in Canada. And we don't have a place to like store another set. So we're driving the same road tires on everything. If you had an all-terrain set, it'd be a lot better. But since we're trying to maximize for distance, we're just using the best rated tires for distance on everything we got. So, you know, use the tools at hand and the proper tool for the right job. But when what you got is what you got, you have to use what you got. So there you go.
Yeah. And that covered a question because someone was asking about the popped tires, and it sounds like it was just it was a factor of the trip and the constraints that you were under.
We budgeted for it.
But you touched on service. What did you do for service? Did you just skip it, or did you manage to squeeze it in at some point? Because what was it, 68,000 K?
That's right.
We're at 76,609 today.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, we did manage to get a couple of service appointments in Toronto and in Vancouver. And actually, one kind of funny thing we've had that was a little unexpected is we had to replace our brakes and rotors because we weren't using them. So in the kind of driving we've been doing in the Forest Service roads and getting it kind of dirty and mucky, we were told, yeah, you gotta use the actual brake pedal after that because it helps to kind of clean out the debris. We also talked to another gentleman who had another EV, and he had to replace his brakes because the line seized because he wasn't using them. Because we get so used to this regenerative braking and the one pedal driving, it's really important to remember that you still need to use those brakes and make sure that keep things cleaned out. That was a bit of an extra expense we weren't expecting, but that's okay.
So all the rocks and stuff, they basically ate not only the pads, but all the rotors out. And I said, well, you have to replace them. Like, I hardly used them. And like, yeah, So use them more, and
Yeah.
if by using them more, you'll actually extend the life of your next set of brakes. Who knew?
Yeah.
Huh.
So we've had just a handful of like regular wear and tear things. Nothing really super major. And then a couple of like software type tweaks that were needed a little bit.
Very little
Some stuff
service.
was a little bit glitchy, but it was very like none of it was really affecting our driving. It was just kind of like, oh well, it's like we're gonna get it fixed anyway. We'll just have them address these little things.
Tires and brakes, that's been
Yeah.
maintenance.
No
Jason?
windshield chips.
Oh, the windshield, the
Oh.
windshield is it's we've let it go up until now. It's very, very cracked and chipped now, but we have a new one ready to go in Vancouver once we get back down there.
You officially went through Alberta. I think that's what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, there and back.
So, Jason, we have time maybe for one quick question.
Okay. Not a lot of EV drivers, I think, are charging at RV parks. It sounds like you had a pretty positive experience. Did you find them generally receptive, or did you have some that were just nah?
There was one RV park in northern BC, Pink Mountain, I believe, that actually had its own dedicated.
That was a Triple G in Fort Nelson.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
actually had its own dedicated EV charging campsite with a J1772 plug that you can top up overnight. All the
That
rest
was really cool.
that we've seen have no idea about EVs. So we plugged in. Some of the time, the attendant will come through and be like, "Oh, like you're not an RV, but you're plugged in. What's going on here?" And then we'll give them the spiel of what we're doing, who we are, the amount of power we're drawing from their system. And they're like, "Wow, really? To power an EV for that long, like 12 hours, it only takes $3 worth of power?" I had no idea. So after sharing the amount of information from our apps on what's actually being pulled out of the system into the vehicle overnight, most of them have just said, "Wow, thank you so much for that education. I'm really glad that you told me that," kind of thing. We've had that dual port station quite a few times, and certainly haven't paid for 2 stalls while we're doing that. Nobody's ever called us on it, so if they bring it up, I'll talk about it. But ultimately, it's double the cost that we're pulling. So instead of $250, it's $5. It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but the vast majority of times we've camped, like nobody said anything. Like I've been kind of waiting to say, "Hey, why are you plugged into 2 spots?" But nobody's even mentioned it. That being said, we're often camping midweek. It's not in a full campground. Like we wouldn't take up 2 spots in a full campground. That's not cool. This is something we do, midweek where it's pretty quiet, and you can get the 2 spots at once thing. But the Airbnb hosts as well have been really curious to know just how much power it takes when we've asked to plug in. A couple of times we've done that.
Yeah, just share the information. A lot of the time we're at a public provincial park, and provincial park attendants don't really seem to care. Works for
Great.
us.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Tim?
Oh, that being said, just one more quick point. We have heard of certain camping places like the KOA where they have banned EVs from charging. And one more really important thing is if you are using a campground to charge your EV, make sure to turn down the amperage so you're not tripping breakers. Sometimes, we'll usually make sure that the post itself has a breaker on it so that we can flip it on and off ourselves if we need to. They almost all do. And then sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find that sweet spot. I usually start low and then we kind of creep it up a little bit, see if it'll pop. But yeah, generally we'll turn it down to
Depends what you plug into.
Yeah, it depends what you're plugging into, but yeah, make sure and turn down your amps.
good to know. Good to know. Jason, thanks so much for walking us through all those questions. And thank you everybody out there who submitted a question. We didn't get any hands raised, so we didn't hear anybody's voice, but we appreciate the curiosity and the probes that came in there. Nicole, Richard, what can I say? Thanks so much for sharing this story. It's a fabulous one. As an EV driver, I felt like I was there with you at times. I just think you've done an amazing thing by doing this and sharing the information. There's no better way, right, to find out what the pitfalls and what the advantages are too, really, of this kind of a trip. So again, really appreciate it. I know everybody watching enjoyed it as well. And we'll put those links in the comment section and we'll get this up on the YouTube site as soon as possible. Thanks a
Thanks
bunch.
so much, Tim.
Yeah, thank you
Appreciate it.
so much.
What a pleasure.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so on next month on Canada Talks Electric Cars, we'll again address the persistent myths about EVs and that misinformation that just continues to circulate in the media. It'll be for an episode entitled Crushing Lies, Myths, and Half-Truths About EVs. And we have Daniel Breton, CEO from Electric Mobility Canada, and Joanna Kariasis, Director of Public Affairs at Clean Energy Canada. And I should add that our viewers next month will be able to have a chance to win a signed copy of Daniel's new book, which is called 50 Myths and Half-Truths About Electric Vehicles. So we hope you'll join us. The date again will be Tuesday, December 3rd, always 7:30 Eastern Time, PM. So on behalf of all of us here at Electric Vehicle Society, thanks a lot for joining today's webinar.